I think, I think we have to feel the game, and there were some possessions offensively where, we need to go from good to great.
Find that identity. What are we playing for? The consistency word is, I always use the whole season. Starting with myself, I take full accountability for, just me being able to be better on offense, defense. We got to figure out that identity of what we're playing for. If you really want to win, and you could tell the teams that really want to win, they buy in, attention to detail, and they're consistent. And when I say that, it's not about just making or missing shots. Being there for each other on defense, and then obviously offense take care of itself. So.
Welcome in, Hawks fans. It's your boy Bryce Lewis back for another Atlanta Hawks wrap up, and this is going to be a bit of a rant. A lot obviously happened during the San Antonio game. Hawks getting a season high in points in the first half, and then getting, I think, literally, I don't know if it is. It seems like it's a season low in points in the second half, only scoring 35 points in the second half, letting San Antonio coming all the way back to beat them by 8. Trailing by 10 with a couple minutes left in the game. And this what happened in that game is a theme that has happened this entire season long. And the worst thing about these games that every Hawks fan points out is this happens against the worst teams in the league. This game tonight reminded me of the Houston Rockets game back in Houston, where the Hawks were killing them early. DeJounte and Trey were going off. Everything seemed all dandy. And then they went cold. They couldn't get stops, and Houston came all the way back and beat them. And you're just like, how does that happen? And that's how it literally came off tonight. How do you bring your starters in with 7 minutes left, and they only score 4 points the rest of the way? The big talk on Hawks Twitter has been the starters. This starting unit clearly does not work. There needs to be changes. Because of what we saw. And I'm not a person who likes to, who feels like, I'm react harshly to one performance. But there has been a theme. This starting lineup has struggled to close games. And now this starting lineup has also struggled to maintain consistent offense. Because the problem with the starting lineup is that it's so dependent on Trey or DeJounte going off. And then everybody else just kind of sprinkles in. If Trey and DeJounte don't go off, you don't really have anybody else able to get you buckets. Clint basically ain't an offensive threat down the stretch, realistically. JC is primarily used as a three-point shooter. So if he ain't hitting threes, he's not doing anything for you. DeAndre Hunter, it just depends on how he's playing. He's either making his jump shots or he's not. So that's three of your starters that you close with aren't even dependable. So then DeJounte's been struggling, so he hasn't been that dependable down the stretch. So now it's on Trey, and Trey probably had one of his worst, if not the worst game of the season. And that recipe led to the Spurs coming back and winning this game. And that's just a completely inexcusable. Nate McMillan was a big part of the problem, but he wasn't the only problem. I've always said the structure of this team is one of the biggest things that is holding this team back. This team has a lot of talent, but just because there's a lot of talent doesn't mean every piece of talent works and fits together. And I think this team is a glowing example of that. And you saw it today. And the worst is, like I said, the worst thing against bad teams is like they just come out flat. Charlotte. They just let Charlotte score 130 points a game on them. I swear they did it to him twice this season. Lost both of those games. Ain't no reason why we're in 140 games with Charlotte. There's no reason why we are destroying the Houston Rockets and now all of a sudden we go cold. There's no reason why we have our best half of the season and then we only score 35 points. We didn't even score double what we scored in the first half. We scored less than that in the second half. You can't have that happen. And one thing I think a lot of people have been trying to point out is like, what is this team missing? Obviously, we think they're missing some talent or just better pieces in the starting unit. Because the bench played well today. Bogdanovich played well, Okongwu played well, and AJ Griffin played well. You got bench contributions. Each of them scored in double figures. You got 30 plus points, 40 points from your bench. So they gave you what you needed. If the Hawks are getting 40 points a night from their bench, that's pretty big. Your starters in the NBA should average between probably, I would say, 60 and 80 points as a unit. 60 and 80. So if you're getting 40 points from your bench a night or 30 points from your bench a night, that's 110 to 120 points a game you're scoring. So the bench did what they need to do tonight. The starters are who let the Hawks down. And this isn't the first time. There have been other games where the bench comes in and plays really well, keeps the Hawks in the game or whatever, and then the starters just completely blow it. And that's just been a consistent issue all year long. And one thing I think I've noticed, and I don't know if anybody else has noticed, I'm sure people have, but hasn't been spoken a lot. Ever since the Eastern Conference Finals run the Hawks have had, the veteran leadership in this team has diminished. During that run, we had Solomon Hill, we had Gallinari, we had Lou Will. And slowly, ever since that year, Solo left, Lou left, and Gallo left. And we've replaced them with just young players. We've replaced them with AJ Griffin and Jalen Johnson and Sharif Cooper for a year and just other guys. We've replaced them with young players. So we're not really getting any new leadership. Even DeJounte's a young player. So we're not replacing these guys with other good veterans. Like this is like about to be like an appreciation for Gallinari here, because I always said during that playoff run and during games, Gallinari is I like to call him a very calm player. His game is calm. His demeanor is calm. He doesn't get flustered. He's been in the game. He's been in these situations. He was a guy the Hawks could literally go to and just say, call a play for Gallo, let him go to work. Let him go to work. He'll get you buckets. And I would say, and I always said, in the playoffs, in that run and other situations, he would keep the Hawks in games because of that. Because he just knew how to handle the moments and situations. That's why he was so relied on. Like, yes, he was a liability defensively because he couldn't move that well, but he was still a bucket. He could get you 20 if he needed you. Who do the Hawks have on this current version that do that? Who you can say, we can go to him. He'll calm us down. No one. They have no one. And it shows. And that's why this happens. That's why the Hawks have these games. Who is the player they can go to and lead? Gallinari. Again, another example. I want to say it was the Philly playoff series. He was in the huddle and they had a video of it. And he was literally barking in the huddle to the players like, yo, like, get lock in. Who do that on this team? Who? No one. That's why people say there's a lack of leadership. We can't put everything on Snyder and say he needs to get these guys leadership and coaching and everything and just get them to be better. Yeah, he can do the X's and O's, but at the end of the day, the players got to execute. Snyder said in his press conference, we did crap in the first half, we didn't do in the second half, and I don't know why. He basically said, I don't know why we stopped doing these things that work. Why are we doing things that are working and then not doing it anymore? He's like, I'm not calling something that's keeping us from doing it. We're just not doing it. And listen, this team, I said, under Nate, they have a ton of bad habits. And that's one of the things that hurts this team, is that they have so many bad habits that have been developed. And that's not easy to just break. You can't break it in just like 10 games or something. Like sometimes it takes half a season, a full season to break those habits. It takes a while. Hawks don't have a while. And you're seeing them still rear the ugly head. You see great moments of greatness from this team. Clearly, Quinn Snyder knows how to coach offense. This offense is going to be a top offense for years to come. But defensively, I said this. Yes, the offense struggled tremendously in the first half. But also defensively, they couldn't get stops again. Like I said this. Think about it. I think it was 82 to 67 at half. I could be completely wrong about this. But they had 60. Spurs had 60. You do realize if the Hawks didn't have the same first half they had, we would be saying, let's just say the Hawks scored 60, we would be saying the Hawks had a bad defensive half because it's a 60-60 ball game. But because the Hawks were so high, we were like, oh, Hawks are playing great. But they let up 60 plus points. And then they gave up another 60 in the second half. That's interesting to me. And the third quarter was the worst quarter they had. They couldn't stop the Spurs at all in the third. It's like when the offense goes for this team, the defense goes too. Literally, the defense just disappears. It's just non-existent. And that's the problem. It's like we are the model of inconsistency to a T. This is the reason why we are a 500 team. 500 teams are teams that sometimes have moments of greatness, play great, can sometimes go against the top teams in the league and beat them, but then also will come back and lose to the worst teams in the league. The definition of mediocre, whatever. 500 is the description of this Atlanta Hawks team for good reasons. Because literally, this was a great opportunity for the Hawks to create a winning streak. You beat Golden State. Experienced team, good team. Steph Curry. San Antonio, you had him. You had Detroit the next game. This was a great opportunity to get on a 3-game winning streak. Get some momentum. Kind of try to create separation between you and Toronto. Try to maybe even make one last-ditch effort to try to catch Miami. And then you blow it. You blow it. They're lucky Toronto lost. But, like, literally, I'm like, if you're the Hawks, you really can't afford to go to a 9th or 10th seed. You got to win 2 games to get in. The way this team plays, they may win the first game and then completely crap the bed in the second. I don't know what I'm going to get from this team on a daily basis. You want to be so encouraged by things you see with this team because there's some things they do well and then they just, boom, fall apart. And you're just like, why? Why is like, because listen, here's the thing. You're going to blow leads in the NBA. Every team does it. You going to come back in the league. Every team does it. You going to have game winners. Every team does it. So it's not a matter of the Hawks blowing a lead like, oh, you know, no other team does this. The problem is that they've done it multiple times every year in crucial moments in games they shouldn't have lost. I mean, every time you blow a lead, you're going to say you shouldn't have lost. Anytime you have a double-digit lead, you're going to feel like you shouldn't have lost. It happens, but like the way they lose these games is the most frustrating. It's one thing if like someone got hot. Let's say we played the Lakers, we were up like 15, and then LeBron just went crazy. Yeah, you're going to probably still feel like we should have won that game, but at the same time, LeBron went crazy. He's like, all right. But literally us, it's not even that. It's literally we just can't hit a shot and we can't get stopped. We're blowing assignments, over helping, and it just happens for an entire quarter or half. And you're just kind of like, what was that? That's why I said changes are coming. They have to. The only players I feel like are safe next year are probably Trey, probably DeJounte, AJ Griffin, Jalen Johnson, and Onyeka Okongwu. And I guess Bogdanovich because he signed the extension. Outside of that, Hunter, the issue with Hunter is that he's the only big 3 wing we have on this roster. Because I still think if Jalen eventually became a starter, he'll be the starting 4 who could just switch on 3s. So you really only have one big 3. You kind of want to make sure you replace him with another one of those guys. You don't want to make AJ the starting 3 guard because now you have DeJounte, Trey, and AJ, and so you know defensively it's not going to be good perimeter-wise. That's just not going to be. Even though Trey's played better defensively, and you know DeJounte struggled a lot, and then AJ I think he's trying to get better. You know, maybe a whole offseason might change that. I don't know. But John, I just feel like the fit with this roster doesn't work. I think he's struggled to find his role, and it shows. And then center, I just feel like Clint Capella, it's like, I feel like Clint Capella's had injuries, and I feel like that has wore on him a little bit. He's still a good center. He just isn't the center that we need. Before, a couple years ago, he could fill a lot of drop coverage and pick and rolls, and now he's struggling. And I just think also Onyeka Okongwu's playing well. So why not give Onyeka Okongwu the chance to show the front office, hey, I'm ready. Onyeka Okongwu next year is going into his 4th year. You don't think he wants to start and show this front office that he deserves to get a contract extension? Of course he does. And so he has to get that opportunity. And got to get rid of Clint and give him the opportunity, unless Clint is willing to take a bench role. So the Spurs game was just a microcosm of just what this entire season has been. certain games the Hawks have had, situational performances, closing games has always been tough for this team. The starters just completely crapped the bed today, and it sucks. It sucks because you just feel like that's unexcusable. Like what happened? How do you only score 4 points in the last 7 to 6 minutes of the game? How does that happen in an NBA game? Just you can't work with that, man. So I think Snyder, like I said, I listen. He's trying to get these guys up to speed the best he can. But remember, next year he's bringing in his old coaches. I wouldn't be surprised if he brings in some of his own guys in certain positions, like maybe a scout or a personnel guy. And I'm sure he's going to tell the front office some players he would like, some players he's willing to let them trade away. So this is going to be interesting to see what happens with this team next year. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with this team next year. But we still got to get through this season. Still got to see how the season ends up. Got to see what happens in the play-in. Got to see if they get into the playoffs, and then we'll see how that goes. But from what we've seen, man, it's just frustrating seeing what you saw today. It honestly is it feels like such a big letdown, I think, is what the biggest issue is. It just feels like such a major letdown. And I think that's the suckiest part. So we're going to figure some things out. Hawks are going to figure some things out, and they're going to figure out how they can get this shit back on the right track. They got Detroit coming up. Again, winnable game, should win the game, but we'll see how they come out against Detroit, and hopefully, they play better. So we gotta see, guys. But that's all I got for you guys. It's your boy Bryce Lewis signing out. See you next time.